Welcome to a 1v1 on Kholodny Ferma Winter. This game is going to be Paul versus dbmb. Paul playing as Oberkommando West in the East Base, and dbmb playing as Soviets. Paul has gone Fortifications, Breakthrough, and Luftwaffe Ground Forces. dbmb has Guard Motor Coordination, Shock Rifle, and Counterattack Tactics.
You need something demolished.
We've got pretty standard openings from both players, although dbmb is sending, or Paul is sending his Stern Pioneers straight to the fuel over here in the north, probably so that he can secure control of this building should a Soviet squad show up, and he's also throwing some reinforced wire down behind the tractor to try and deny his opponent cover. SWS half-track is making its way towards the center.
We built it as ordered.
dbmb throwing down wire to deny his opponent cover as well, taking control of the central munitions point. SWS moves to destroy some of the barbed wire here in the middle, as well as push the combat engineers around a little bit, but there are no infantry around to follow up and fire on those combat engineers. Stern Pioneers waiting around this corner in case conscripts come around to try and take control of the fuel, but they're currently preoccupied in capturing that victory point, so they're probably not going to be engaged for quite some time, and these conscripts are making their way across the center.
Objective secure.
Could potentially secure building control if they choose to get inside of this building. Instead of going into the capture circle, those Stern Pioneers are going to be forced to retreat, and he does in fact take control of this building, which means that this engagement is definitely going to go south for Paul. He moves the Stern Pioneers into cover to try to engage at pretty close range, but the conscripts surrounding the corner here will prompt a retreat. Volksgrenadiers take control of the victory point over here in the north.
Engineers have secured the sector.
And the Volksgrenadiers there in the south are going to take control of the victory point, while combat engineers grab the fuel. Other than that, pretty much just rotating and trading territories for now. No real engagements happening, and battle group headquarters is going up here on the cutoff.
The hard target destroyed.
We can now train snipers.
We've also got a green cover position going up way up here in the north. Interesting placement. Conscripts trying to clear up some of these reinforced wire barricades that Paul did not complete. And they will secure building control to prevent Paul's Volksgrenadiers from entering there. Volksgrenadiers making their way towards the south.
Enemy forces are capturing our supplies.
They're slowly engaging against those combat engineers. There they go, forced retreat. We should secure that fuel point easily enough. Meanwhile, Stern Pioneers force a retreat from the conscripts here in the center. They hoorah into a more beneficial position, but at that level of health, they're probably best off just retreating to reinforce and heal. Flamethrower does not quite have range on those Stern Pioneers from that green cover position, which means that they're not engaging very cost effectively against these Stern Pioneers and Volksgrenadiers, and Paul should be able to get this munitions point under his control unless support arrives. Volksgrenadiers in the south taking control of that fuel. Meanwhile, conscripts are making their way across to the strategic point to get that under their control as well. Volksgrenadiers being engaged here on the central munitions point to take a bit of damage from those conscripts at short range, and M3 is loaded up with combat engineers and Flamethrower, which is getting into close range. Full squad of conscripts gets wiped just by MG34 and Volksgrenadiers at close range. I think he got some kind of unlucky RNG right there, plus the red cover of this road, and the squad went down a little bit quicker than he was ready for. And it doesn't look like he's going to do too well in this engagement either. The M3 is taking a ton of damage from Stern Pioneers there. and it's going to have to completely disengage and receive a few repairs. Paul's first Panzerschreck isn't going to be here for some time though. Still only has 75 munitions, 77, and with only 18 coming in because he's not able to secure control of the only munitions point on this map, it makes it difficult to get Panzerschrecks very quickly on this particular map. Although we'll notice he has 3 of these Grim Reaper tool bulletins. I almost never comment on bulletins, but that's one of the few bulletins that does make a significant difference. Bringing the price of the Panzerschreck down to only 77, he will be able to purchase that a little bit earlier and provide himself with a little bit more firepower to get rid of that M3. Although it looks like he may be able to take it out using only small arms fire, judging by the route that it's currently taking, it seems unlikely that it's going to survive its current path. I don't know, it's taking a really wide path around the south. I'm not sure anything's going to be able to pick it up unless it gets a little too close to Paul's base guns. Sturm Pioneers are continuing to chase though. It looks like it could escape. The SWS half-track here just spotted it, but I don't think there's anything anywhere that could pick it up unless this Volksgrenadier squad catches it, but it's circling way around the north. Somehow that M3 is going to survive that push, but it doesn't inflict any particularly meaningful casualties either. Despite forcing one squad of Volksgrenadiers to retreat, it doesn't get any squad wipes and not all that much manpower. Sturm Pioneers moving up into close range with supporting Volksgrenadiers should be able to force these conscripts from the house. There they go. And Paul does now have a forward retreat point unlocked here on his battle group's headquarters, so he should be quite easily able to maintain a forward staging position for his attacks on the fuel point here in the south and also the munitions point here in the center. And as long as he can hold on to this victory point, the game is going to last quite a long time. He shouldn't have too much of a problem making it to a Panther as long as he can hold on to a fuel point as well.
Soviet HQ now includes a field hospital.
And he is going to have 80 fuel
Who are seriously wounded.
within the next minute, and his second SWS is already on the field. And it looks like he's thinking of setting it up right here, which will provide him more than adequate protection against that M3, as well as pushes by potentially shock troops, which 2 of dbmb's commanders will give him access to.
Ready for deployment.
Volksgrenadiers are taking control of various points here in the south. There are conscripts positioned in green cover to apply a little pressure to them, but it's not enough. They're dropping quite quickly. They'll be forced to retreat. Paul continues to simply capture the sectors, not worrying too much about the fact that he's receiving some fire there. The M3 is making its way back towards the Soviet base to transport some infantry to various locations. Paul takes control of the central church where he will see a squad of conscripts defending.
We are losing territory.
And a Molotov is going in now to deny that building to Paul's infantry. Sturm Pioneers also receiving damage in medium range over here, and Paul continues to simply defend territories by his battle group headquarters, and we're actually going to see his tier 4 structure going up here by the victory point, I think. Maybe. I don't know, I'm not 100% sure where this is going to set up. Could see a very aggressive tier 4 placement this game. I'm not sure I agree with it, and I'm not sure he'll be able to defend it. It's about to set up right in front of an M3. Paul cancels it just in time. I think that could have been a potentially game-losing attempt at setting up a tier 4 structure in an insanely aggressive location.
Combat promotion received.
I wonder if he's going to attempt to do that a second time. Fallschirmjäger fielded here, so Paul has chosen Luftwaffe ground forces. I guess we knew that a while ago, but his hand has now been played. It is not fortifications doctrine. Fallschirmjäger leave the building. Will he go for the Panzerfaust? No, he will not. He does not have the munitions currently, as he just purchased a second Panzerschreck, I assume. Yes, he did. Flame crits on that Fallschirmjäger squad bring it to only 1 man remaining and has to retreat immediately. And Volksgrenadiers with a Panzerschreck moving up. Will force the M3 to reposition slightly. Flamethrower in the building with conscript support. Trying to push Paul off the munitions point, but these MG34s are going to provide a pretty difficult screen for dbmb to punch through. Nice harassment of the fuel, however. Paul just cannot seem to keep it under his control. Hopefully this fresh squad of Fallschirmjäger will help him change that situation. Molotov going out, one flame crit, but other than that, nice dodge by Paul. Uh-oh, that M3 just walked right into the arc of fire of both of these machine guns. And there it goes, popped quite easily. I'm not sure what he was thinking there. And dbmb just activated for Mother Russia for some reason. Why would he have done that? 100 munitions to activate. He's not even really in combat right now. Seems like a weird choice. He does have a mortar firing. I guess that's something. I don't know. That seemed like a kind of a weird time to activate for Mother Russia. I feel like he just wasted 100 munitions. It's going to come to an end soon. Although I guess he is going to be able to take control of this munitions point while that's going. And that also means that his hand has been played, so Paul knows that he's up against potentially a B4 and KV1s this game. Pressure's going to be on him to try to field some sort of preemptive counter. He's got 133 fuel in the bank, but he still hasn't set up his tier 4 structure, so he's actually a little behind for fuel. Once he spends the 80 fuel for the actual structure, it's going to be a long time before he can afford a Panther.
Supply sector under attack.
Although he's finally getting a little harassment done here in the north of his Bolshevik
You are
movement.
responsible for your soldiers. If they freeze to death, they cannot die fighting the enemy.
Looks like we could finally see the tier 4 structure going up, and again, very aggressive placement, which just got cancelled, I think, because this point is being captured, I assume. It's going to be a pretty late tier 4, 12 minutes into the game, still hasn't been built.
Our soldiers' patriotic zeal to increase combat effectiveness.
Volksgrenadiers reinforcing here by the battle group headquarters. Demo charge just went down, by the way, here on the strategic point. That's going to potentially wipe one of Paul's squads next time he goes to retake that. And there it is, tier 4 structure going up right there on the road to defend the munitions rather than the victory point. And no counter harassment up here, by the way, on that fuel. Stern Pioneer Squad making its way down to take the strategic point back, and Fallschirmjäger are going to make their way up.
The enemy has taken our supply sector.
To take control of
We need to re-establish our supply lines.
the victory point. Conscripts making their way up to counter harass, but at this range I think the Fallschirmjäger will probably win the engagement, especially since they're the first to seek cover here. Making their way into green cover, they should easily win this engagement against these conscripts, and they are getting cut down quite quickly. Trying to close the gap now for a Molotov, but he realizes it's way too late and will retreat. Meanwhile, his mortar also taking significant pressure from the Volksgrenadiers here on this push, and Paul is rapidly taking control of the entire map. dbmb has just fielded himself a KV-1 though. Paul's going to have to contend with that, using only 3 squads, Panzerschrecks, and potentially also Fallschirmjäger. Other than that, he doesn't have any anti-tank at all. And he's a little bit behind on fuel, but he is quickly catching up.
Squad replenished.
Still several minutes from a Panther, though.
Secured.
Brilliant Voroshilov 1 tank ready for deployment, comrade.
the Ag Panzer would provide really good firepower against the KV-1, but it would not really have the ability to apply pressure to a B-4 in the Soviet base the way that a Panther would, so it's kind of a trade-off. KV-1 doesn't apply that much pressure in and of itself. It can be difficult to deal with, but depending on your situation, it can be worth it to wait for a Panther instead. I think Paul has pretty good map control. He owns both fuel points, so I think waiting for a Panther is pretty realistic. He's only about a minute and a half away from it now. 23 fuel coming in. KV-1 moves up into range of the flak headquarters. Starts taking shots at it, bringing it down relatively quickly, but without field gun support or anything like that, it's probably going to survive. That being said, a B4 is under construction here in the base, and it's easily going to be able to destroy this structure if that KV-1 doesn't get pushed away from it immediately. The repairs need to go up on that structure very soon, or it will be destroyed. KV-1 is being brought very low by Panzerschreck fire on the flank. He's getting a little bit greedy here. Repairs are going up. One more Panzerschreck shot will destroy that KV-1, and it needs to disengage. It looks like he's going to get out of range, but only very narrowly. Cut that engagement rather close. This KV-1 will be fine, and the B4 will easily be able to finish off that structure and probably take that Stern Pioneer squad along with it. And that means that there will not be a Panther constructed this game by Paul. He's probably about to lose his Stern Pioneer squad as well. He hears the B4 fire and tries to get clear, but the shot is actually off target and doesn't even hit the structure, but instead wipes the Stern Pioneers and a squad of Volksgrenadiers on the retreat. That is a painful loss for Paul, and he's actually operating now on only 4 squads. Didn't actually have all that much infantry, apparently.
Our territory is falling into enemy hands.
And that B4 shot did not help his situation. But his Panther is now under construction, and if he drives that straight into the Soviet base, there won't be really anything to protect his B4 or his KV-1, but the Panther only does so much damage per second, which means it's probably going to have to choose a target wisely.
This is our sector now. Yes, comrade.
Or just fired again. That shot is off target. Second time, and it looks like the Panther is going to complete. Wasn't sure it was going to, but both of those B4 shots were just terribly off target. Fortunately for Paul. He really needed that Panther to hit the field too, so that's pretty much the only reason he's still going to be in this game. He's going to need to field Stern Pioneers as soon as he possibly can if he wants to be able to repair this thing, though. The question is, how exactly is he going to use that Panther? What is he going to prioritize first? KV-1 will take a little bit of time for that Panther to chew through. The B4 he could probably take out reasonably quickly, but he does need to be careful about overextending it. If he loses this, pretty much guaranteed to lose the game. His opponent probably does have AT grenades. Not yet, but they're under construction, which means that Panther will be susceptible to engine damage. Panther does catch the KV-1 well out of position here and think it could go down. KV-1 does get one penetrating shot. Now Panther's frontal armor, Panzerschreck shot misses. And that KV-1 is almost certainly going to be destroyed. The nearest anti-tank grenade is on its way. Whether or not it penetrates the frontal armor, we will see. Anti-tank grenade going off now. It does penetrate, and that Panther is now stuck in a Soviet base with engine damage at about half health. B4 just fired a shot somewhere over here, I guess. Yep, and the tier 4 structure is destroyed, so no Obersoldaten for Paul. The Pintle Mount machine gun is complete, and he's moving up to fire on the B4. He's going to need to destroy this thing. If he can take out the KV-1 and the B4 with his Panther, he'll be in pretty good shape, especially if his Panther survives this, which it might or might not. We'll find out. Tier 2 is complete, but dbmb does not have the manpower for a field gun right now. B4 is destroyed by the Panther.
Supply sector under attack.
Honestly think that this Panther is at high risk of being destroyed completely by simply anti-tank grenades, but these conscripts are not making a move to do so right now. If he were to throw all 90 of his munitions worth of anti-tank grenades at this Panther, I think it might be destroyed, but I can't quite tell. I'm not sure whether it would be or not. At least the B4 was able to take out this tier 4 structure before being taken out. There's one AT grenade on the frontal armor, and I think it did penetrate, so it deals full damage. I think 3 more AT grenades would destroy this, but either way, it looks like it's going to get to safety.
We need to re-establish our supply lines.
Which means that dbmb is in a lot of trouble right now. He's lost control of the entire map, and he now has to contend with a Vet 1 Panther with no tanks of his own.
AT gun is ready for combat.
Watch out! We're builders, not killers! Why are they shooting at us? We are ready to build it all.
MG-34 is firing on combat engineers over here, but it's being flanked on the left by this flamethrower squad and will be forced to make a retreat, but Paul holds absolutely the entire map, and he's throwing up a new tier 4 structure here to continue to defend the munitions point. Now that the B4 has been destroyed, he should be able to keep it alive. The only significant threat to it is this AT gun here, making its way out of the Soviet base, and he should be able to screen that easily enough with his Fallschirmjäger and other elite infantry squads. Meanwhile, his Panther is finally being repaired here in the south by these Stern Pioneers. Paul can rest easy repairing that Panther, knowing that the B4 has been destroyed. Meanwhile, his infantry is applying pressure on squads immediately outside the Soviet base, forcing retreats with grenades, trying to keep dbmb contained, who is himself sending his few infantry squads up towards the north to try and get the victory points back under his control, try and maintain what little lead he did have earlier. Just now pulled even.
The enemy has cut off a sector.
This territory is ours.
The enemy is encroaching on our territory.
Demo charge going down on the victory point, but Paul is nowhere near it. He should be able to get it back under control, forcing retreat from Panther. He should be able to force another retreat here in the north easily enough, although he will at the very least be able to capture the point before retreating. Whoa, what just got wiped? Stern Pioneers just got wiped over there on the right side. Demo charge takes them out completely, and Paul was about to queue up an infantry support gun, but seeing that his Stern Pioneers were dead, changed his mind, has to queue up yet another squad. Panther getting pretty aggressive here in the center. Fresh KV-1 has been fielded and is making its way across the center, but it just took engine damage from Panzerfaust, which means that that Panther is going to be a serious threat to it, and I'm wondering if Paul is going to try and follow up. If he does chase that into the base, he'll be threatened by an AT gun and potential engine damage from conscripts should they get too close, although 2 squads are sitting in dbmb's base for some reason. Panther moves up to engage. Field gun is firing on the Panther's frontal armor and brings it dangerously low. And Paul will completely disengage, not wanting to risk a frontal penetration from the KV-1. Gets that Panther out of there. Despite Paul having almost no infantry really left, he's only got 3 squads, I guess, compared to dbmb's 5 plus 3 team weapons. He just has absolutely supreme map control because of the threat that this one Panther poses. It felt dangerously low during that engagement, though, which just goes to show that it's not entirely over yet. As long as Paul can keep that Panther alive, dbmb probably can't win. It's going to come down to some lucky shots, I think, with the field gun, and it would really also help if he threw down a mine. Paul's aggressive driving with that Panther means that he's probably susceptible to hitting a mine. Stern Pilot Squad does have a minesweeper, but he hasn't really been using it with his Panther as he pushes. So if dbmb can get some mines down without the Panther noticing, maybe he could turn this game around. Without that happening, I'm not so sure.
Blizzard conditions are now in effect.
Paul successfully steals his MG-34 back with Folks Grenadiers there. Meanwhile, his Tier 4 structure comes dangerously close to being destroyed. But he's getting some repairs done on it now with those Stern Pioneers, and he's going to try and keep that AT gun and KV-1 back with his Panther over here. Oh, Panther gets a lucky shot on the rear of that KV-1, damaging its engine. Conscript Squad gets wiped on retreat. This flamethrower will probably be next. The loss of that KV-1 really hurts, and the Panther gets away with just a sliver of health again. The Soviet player is probably really regretting losing that B4, because if he just had a way to blast this Panther while it's sitting there, to blast these damaged structures that fall down to just a sliver of health, even just a little bit of indirect firepower would help the Soviet immensely this game, but he just doesn't have it. And Paul is just cleaning up priority targets left and right. First squad of shock troops hits the field 27 minutes into the game. Kind of weird to see them so late. I wonder why he didn't field them earlier. Throws For Mother Russia on again, interestingly enough. I guess he just wants the buffs for firing at this structure, and it looks like he's going to destroy it. Maybe. Stopped firing. Looks like he got screened away by Obersoldat. I don't know, I'm not sure why he's moving to this location. Interesting placement. Gets a shot off on the frontal armor of the Panther there, and it does penetrate. Panther is going to back away to safety. Another shot connects with the Tier 4 structure. It's falling dangerously low. Could get destroyed here. Grenade goes out on the AT gun. He's trying to screen it away. It looks like it's going to get cleared.
Raising troops dying under your command is an inefficient use of state resources. Tank guns. Engineers standing by.
Enemy squad has us sighted. They have cash.
And there you have it. dbmb could not come back from this situation. Paul just drove that Panther straight into his base, blew up the KV-1, blew up the B4, and that was pretty much it. There was no coming back from that for dbmb. I think he really needed Paul to make a critical mistake with his Panther from that point forward, or to hit a mine, and since neither of those two things happened, that was pretty much GG. Axis wins.